The question is, how do you define perfect? Life before Tony and life after Tony?
Tell us about your own philosophy about risk. Is there a hierarchy in the six needs?
But I think it's a different outcome if you have the first two in a certain area or the other two in a different area.
Hello and welcome to Inception to Infinity. I am Anupam Satyasheel, the founder and CEO of Occams Advisory. Today, we have the honor of having with us the one and only Fadi Haidao. And Fadi is an exceptional risk professional. He provides, in his own words, certainty to his clients and the people he cares for. And this he does through a variety of insurance programs. Fadi is a proud father of 4 kids. He is a dedicated husband. And above all, he is an inspired and inspiring individual who is a pillar of the community. Fadi, welcome to Inception to Infinity.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we get started on the wonderful questions, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy, why don't you tell the audience as to why do you believe that being an insurance professional is being in the business of providing certainty?
I feel like that's what insurance is. They're transferring their risk over to you or to the company. So they need certainty to know that the risk that they're transferring is in good hands. So they need certainty knowing that that risk they are transferring will be handled.
Perfect. You and I share something in common. Actually, we share many things in common. But two of them is that you have involvement with a company called Farmers Insurance. As I mentioned to you earlier, I had a farmers agency which did very well. And at the onset of COVID, I turned this back to farmers because I changed states. We also are both believers and followers of Tony Robbins.
Yes.
Certainty is one of the 6 values Tony talks about a lot. Now, I don't think I'm going to have Tony Robbins on this podcast sometime soon. So maybe you can tell our audience, what are the 6 values that...
Six human needs, yes.
Human needs, rather, yes. 6 human needs that motivate people. Certainty is the first one, right?
Yes. Usually people and I, at moments and times, live in certainty first, and 6 human needs that we need. Then uncertainty, and significance. Loving connection, contribution, growth, and uncertainty. So those are the big 6 human needs that we're constantly operating in.
So tell us more about that. So you're saying that we only have 6 needs and everything else is covered on those 6 magic boxes?
Correct. You'll find yourself in any moment searching for certainty because your brain is about 200 years old and is processing in survival mode. And when you're processing in survival mode, you're looking for certainty, you're looking for safety, you're looking for certainty, you're looking for safety. And once you have it, which is very easy to have these days, then you'll get bored. And when you get bored, you want to be significant. And when you want to be significant, you go into your significance of looking how to be better, right? How to be different. So those are the 2 we're constantly operating in. And so you want to catch yourself where you want to operate in those 2. You want the loving connection first, contribution second, or growth second, or growth first, or loving connection second. That's basically the 6 human needs that you're falling into, and you have the 2 primary you're running in.
We all have heard about Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy of how people start from basic needs to go all the way to self-actualization. Is there a hierarchy in these 6 needs as well? Is there one of them more important, more pressing than others?
I think from what you're going to see of mass numbers seeing it in yourself and seeing it in community and seeing it in people, recognizing the pattern. If everyone is running into certainty and significance or significance and uncertainty, you'll see the quality of person of life versus loving connection first, then growth, or then um, uncertainty. You'll see the quality of life changes. So, yes, I don't want to say one is better than the other, but I think it's a different outcome if you have the first two in a certain area or the other two in a different area.
So, Fadi, in the same context, we talk a lot about trying to attain certainty, try to attain significance, and let's say we are able to fulfill all our needs, and now we're successful. As the world says, I'm successful is almost like a science. People have mastered the art of, I won't say art, mastered the science of becoming wealthy, or at least having means to pay for a great lifestyle and enjoy all that. But in spite of all that, we all come across many, many people who have all kinds of wealth and resources, a great family, but they're terribly, terribly unhappy in their personal life. Is that what you call that they're missing fulfillment? And how do you, if that's what your experience has been as well, how do you distinguish the two? People usually think successful is all that we need to be happy.
Yes. And that's something we kind of went through in 2007, right before 2000, 2015, 2017. Something me and you have learned about success without fulfillment, right? We've all seen people that are successful and they're not fulfilled in happiness. They're not fulfilled in life. And sometimes they end up their life because they have no fulfillment. They don't have a reason. Our 2015, 2017 is when we were at our top of our life of success. But we were not fulfilled. We didn't know who we were. We just knew that we were just chasing success, chasing success, chasing success, chasing success. And then there was a breaking point where we were very unhappy. Um, and we ended up went to Tony Robbins' event, and I call it Life Before Tony and Life After Tony, seeing that you need success and fulfillment.
So when you say we, you mean probably you and your family?
Yes.
So what did you learn which helped you get fulfillment? Because today in you, I see somebody who is not only financially successful, but also is deeply rooted in the community. You actually care for people. You have cared for me in many ways, and I have known you for like just about a few months. So what is changed within you? What is different today than it was before you figured out fulfillment?
I think serving, that's the big one. That's where we were talking about, you were talking about the two human needs, the certainty and the significance, or the significance first and certainty. When you have the significance first and certainty, you're not putting contribution on your top priority. And the best time that I've seen people the most happy is when they're contributing. Um, you're doing that at this moment, you're contributing, and I'm sure this fulfills you. This may be not successful yet, but I'm sure this fulfills you by serving. And when I saw people serve and I saw being served, I felt fulfilled and I felt happy. And I've seen that also in real life, as you can see, the great people that do serve. We can name all the greatness that we know, and you can see how they're happy with their success at whatever level it is. It's just they're happy because they're serving.
So are you saying that
Contribution.
the more we give, the more we get, the
Fulfill,
more we
the more we
feel
feel
fulfilled?
fulfillment. Now, there is a balance of how you don't want to be serving constantly. You don't want to be doing success constantly. So you'll find your balance of how much you will fulfill or how much you will serve and how much you'll have success. But it's the moment that I have for me was I had a after the 2017, I had a mindset of, or if I was successful, I couldn't be fulfilled, or or if I was fulfilled, I couldn't be successful. There is an end. You could be successful and fulfilled. But you got to work on where do you find that within you.
So you speak a lot about these six human needs, about the need for success and fulfillment simultaneously, so a person can achieve all their potential. In the context of certainty, in the context of needs, we all deal with risk. We are at some level concerned about taking a risk because if we take a risk, we can fail. At the same time, without taking a risk, there's no success. You deal with this at many levels. So tell us about your own philosophy about risk, not a risk which can be contained through insurance, but a risk which has to be taken in getting outside your comfort zone, in pushing the boundaries which make you comfortable, and then receiving the growth which is probably required for you to actually move in the direction of fulfillment.
One, I'm wearing it, right? You got to widen your perspective. Two is the best statement I heard was the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the amount of uncertainty you can comfortably deal with. So the quality of your life is based on the amount of uncertainty you are comfortable to deal with. So I always see it as the horse blinders. You know how horse have the blinders when they race? They have one mission, right? The reason they have the blinders is they don't get distracted and they can go and win the race. And that's kind of in that same arena in a way. I see if you worry about certainty, you're staying in that lane. If you widen your certainty, you have many lanes to choose from. Now, you don't have to go in all of them, but you just widen, seeing other opportunities, other doors, and then you get to choose. And then you choose by calculated risk. You don't have to call it just risk. Add calculated risk. If you add it as a calculated risk, now you've calculated your risk, and then you take that risk and you anticipate. And anticipation should help you with recognized patterns. And when you recognize patterns, I mean, just taking that extra step, extra step, extra step almost is like insurance, knowing that you're in the right direction or a direction. I mean, there's people that even don't do anything. I think doing something is better than not doing something. And if it doesn't work, you change it to something else. And you've already, your failures are already your wins. And people don't even take the risk, so they don't have the failures to learn from.
So, very interesting point about taking risk step by step versus what we usually observe the people when they break free of the shackles.
Mm.
They decide to take a swing for the fence and they end up
Yes.
taking a risk way bigger than what they can safely absorb. A very important point about the amount of uncertainty somebody can be comfortable with. So it's
Yes.
almost like an oxymoron that you're trying to be uncertain, but you're trying to be comfortable with it. What is your personal philosophy of growth? What does Fadi look like in 20 years' time, 10 years' time?
I mean, love and presence is going to be the biggest one. Um, he said it the other day. He goes, once you have that wake up call, knowing that there is less days in front of you than there are behind you, I think that's the big one. Is
You have many more days ahead of you than behind you.
I feel the opposite because I want, maybe because I want more. You know what I mean? Because I can do more because I feel like there is more. You know, some people may have a smaller playground to play with. I feel like there's a bigger playground to play with, and I want more, and I see less days. My perspective. So that perspective just gave me more to be even more grounded and present at this moment and enjoying this moment.
So
So
in
in
20
10
years'
years,
time, yeah,
so in
10
10,
years.
20 years, I want to see even more depth and loving connection in my interactions. even more.
People usually have a numeric assignment to their net worth or their number of lives they are touching or any of those things. But yours, uh, 10, 20-year outlook is far more philosophical. What creates this, Fadi? Because from what I understand, there was 10 years ago, give or take, there was a person who was sprinting, running, kind
Yes.
of like almost burning himself and maybe chugging along super fast. And
Yes.
now you have discovered this peace and calmness and equanimity. So what switched? What was the trigger? What happened inside you which made this complete transition possible?
The one thing I was remembering when you were speaking right now was the article that I read about, you know, how we read about the articles where the sent to I can't say the word right, all the where the 100-year-old,
Centennial decade.
and one of them was in Greece that they did a study on, and they asked them there, they asked those people and they said, what makes life? Because that's what you're asking me. What is life in the future? What makes life for you right now live for? And the guy goes, every day, all I want to know is who I'm having dinner with, because my life is joyful and fulfilled knowing who I'm going to have dinner with that night. So I go, okay, if this guy's 100 years old and he's going to pass away, all he cares about is just who he's going to have presence and enjoyment and love with, of he's going to have dinner with. And that's the study that it came out of. And I'm sure others is going to be health and quality, but I really do think the joy of life is the biggest monetary in the future, right? Especially with robots coming through. Like, if there's nothing else for you to do, what else are you going to do other than joy or living or adventure, right? It's going to be that loving connection. Me and you can be joyful all we want, but if we don't have that depth, love, connection, understanding with each other, or heartfelt, I think we're just going to be passing through each other's lives. To answer that,
Absolutely. So you come across as a person who is on a journey of fulfillment and journey of growth.
yes.
And the emotions, as we all understand, are transitory. They come and they go. Human beings are notorious for having different feelings all day long. What actions do you take on daily basis? You as in Fadi, do you take which keeps you in this wonderful state of bliss and equanimity and broadened perspective, as your t-shirt says?
Another statement is the game of life. How you play the game of life is how you live the game of life. And some people want to make the game of life very hard to feel significant because it's hard. Theirs is harder. Some people like to make their game of life a lot easier and make it easy to win. There may be smaller ones as smaller steps, but smaller steps and smaller ones still get you to your goal. And, you know, if some people want to make their life look a lot harder so they can feel more significant because their life is harder and so they can achieve more, that's great. There's no one way of doing it, but I, you, to me, it's just recognizing patterns of how many times am I going to be more happy versus more frustrated. Um, Wake up, I put my feet on the ground, I'm above ground, happy. I wake up, I'm in San Diego, 72 degrees, no humidity, very happy. Wake up, take care of myself. I always have this saying of I, us, we. I always put my mask on first, then I put it on my wife, then I put it on my children. You got to take care of yourself to take care of her, to take care of them. That's my philosophy. And, you know, there's other rules, values that I have as well that I, you know, try to follow. I don't want to be perfect. You know, we hear it all the time. Perfection is the lowest standard, but you do the best you can in a loving way. And and the rest, I think, just kind of falls in place once you're in that momentum of doing it.
You said something which piqued my attention. You said perfection is the lowest standard. People are trained to believe that perfection is the highest standard. How do you reconcile the two views.
The question is, how do you define perfect?
So you said perfection is the lowest standard.
Yes,
Why is that so?
because I feel like it is not an ending cycle, right? Because there's going to be another level to stress about of making it better and better and better, which is maybe I'm referring it only to happiness or within happiness. Why wait to be happy versus choosing to be happy now? Um, I think I'm just going a little bit more basic about it. You choose to be happy, just choose to be happy right now. Make that choice.
Makes sense.
Fall
Now,
into the happiness.
yeah, that's a
But I didn't
fantastic.
know that. And that's one thing we had to all learn. I had to learn how to tap into my feelings, happy, sad, mad, glad, frustrated. A lot of times we're not tapping into those because we're letting life decide these things for us, right? We're letting social media clicking to decide that for us. We're letting our friend tell us we should be happy because this happened. We're letting our parents to tell us we should be happy, or we're even telling ourselves you should be happy because you live in this beautiful. No, I think we got to practice the being of happy, just being happy.
You touched upon another interesting thing called social media.
Hmm.
The jury is out if there is much good coming out of it. That being said, from my experience, you have a very low key social media footprint. It's almost impossible to find you online. Why is that so? And how do you run a successful business in today's world without being on social media?
Anything to me in that aspect is a tool. I don't have a big social media. I don't need it yet. When I do need it, I will definitely use that tool. Should I start now and get up to date? Yes. I think I've consumed myself with other items that I need versus want. To me, that's a want at this moment. Maybe because I've done a great job having a great human interaction with others, and I don't need the social media yet. Um, I think it's a great platform to reach more people, to help more people, to serve more people? Yes. I don't think I've utilized it yet, but it's definitely a tool that I will use. It will not be a tool that will use me.
And talking about a tool that will not use you, you also have a teenager at home and a teenager
Yes.
girl, and you have a soon to be teenager daughter as well. What is your philosophy of social media access for teenagers and the whole chapter of exposure that opens for them? And how do you manage it personally? And what do you suggest to other parents?
Yeah, she just got her phone and we're working on pros and cons on what she can be on and what she could use and how long. I do think it's a time management issue in the end. Just like anything, if wherever your focus goes, your energy flows, right? And if we manage that time, we're great. And we're constantly having that human interaction with her as well. That helps. We go to trips. Sometimes she's not on her phone for a few days and she gets anxiety that she hasn't texted her friends in 3 to 4 days. Um, so I think it's time management. And as long as we can show her the same thing I'm telling you, it's a tool. It's a tool that she is in control of and it's not in control of her. That's all we can do. I do want her to go through the mistakes. I mean, I've gone through the rabbit holes of social media. Um, and you want to make that mistake. You don't want to be perfect and not do things, not to make the mistakes to learn from.
What's the biggest fear?
Biggest fear. I mean, the biggest fear is death.
It's a certainty. So we can't be scared of what is certain.
What's certain?
Death is certain, right? Nobody is going to outlive death.
In some perspective,
So you probably have a different meaning of death, like you mean decay and stagnation versus like physical death.
um, true, yes. But my biggest fear is dying without my control of it. So I think that's where I try to live every moment I can to its fullest.
Tell us more. I
I,
feel there's something lurking in your mind which you are trying to verbalize. So tell us more.
yeah, I think the dreams I used to have is being shot out of nowhere, walking in the mall and just ending life there, and there's more to life. So I think that's why maybe I make it more of my goal to serve now and live now and be present now and connect now because the moment is now.
We are at the intersection of things like fear and risk and parenting. At the stage of life that you're at, you have children who will be coming to you for guidance in not so distant future, and you'll be talking about risk and certainty and uncertainty with them. How do you balance that? How do you balance encouraging the next generation to take risks, but at the same time making sure there is certainty in some parts of that risk taking? You talked about this in the context of making step by step, but that's something which is more within the comprehension of people your and my age. A 15-year-old does not understand risk the way you understand it. So how do you translate that deep insight for
Yeah, I
children?
mean, hopefully, I'm hoping that Gary Vee is not too old for them. Tony Robbins or even some of the social media people that we've seen, and they kind of all tell you the same thing. You got to take the risk, and hopefully you can model someone that took the risk you want to take. Because if you model someone that took the risk you took, then you're following their footstep. And if they've been successful in it, then you should be successful in it. Now, is it 100% proof it will be successful? And is it going to be the same way? No. What does it take for someone to take the risk or not? I think they need a compelling future or they need leverage. We gotta that's where I try to find people's leverage or I try to find their compelling future. Um, Teaching the kids that there is a compelling future of of them taking this risk or what's their leverage of taking that risk should motivate them to do it, and having them model someone to take the same risk that they're wanting to do should guide them to success.
You deal with people of that age on daily basis at home, but there are so many theories. I shouldn't call theories, more like conjectures going around about Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z. And I think probably they'll start Alpha, Beta, Gamma soon, the way they are classifying generations. Do you think that there is a merit to the fact or to the hypothesis that the new generation is actually different from the one preceding, or it's the mirror that we are holding for ourselves?
Or we can just call everyone human, right? If we just call them human, they have a heartbeat, we have a heartbeat, you match their heartbeat, you match them where they are, then they feel seen. As soon as they feel seen, they go into their humanity and then they go, oh, I'm human, he's human, and they start interacting. If we just make it that simple, I think it's energy. It's always energy exchange. If there was an 11-year-old here for me to interact with, as my daughter or as my nephew, it would be energy exchange. If I was 11-year-old, how would I want my uncle to interact with me? I would want him to want to be cool or try to understand me or just say a word that triggers me for him to for me to feel seen with him. And I did that with some of my cousins and uncles. It was that energy and that young energy exchange. I think if you meet them where they are versus instead of you coming on to bringing your world to them, you go into their world. And that way you'll have connection. I mean, that's in anything. That's in sales also, right? Just like your customer, you go into their world, they feel seen. To me, it's done.
So You touched upon something wonderful. We all are humans. There's an energy, there's a human connection, and you clearly are a very proud father and a very committed father. How do you help? How do you steer these young teenagers or youth in discovering their mission in life? You seem to have one of your own, which is of abundance and self actualization and fulfillment. How do you help now that you have seen the journey on both sides, as you said, pre Tony and post Tony, of of craving for success versus craving for fulfillment? How do you try to steer the newer generation in seeking their mission?
I have a thing to say about need and want. A lot of us want things and then we end up getting lost versus focusing on our needs. And that helps guide us where we need to go. So we do talk to our kids a lot about, is that a need or is that a want? Is that a need or is that a want? And there's nothing wrong with wanting. It's just sometimes you get lost too much into it because you want so much and you're not fulfilling your needs, right? That's one way of doing it. The other way is I don't want to say push them, but just have them have more experiences. A lot of people don't even take a walk in the park. You walk in the park and you trip. You walk in the park and the bird, poops on you. And how do you react to that is a big one. You walk in the park, you meet someone, and then that person knows someone. And again, energy. You put more energy out there, more energy gets created around you. Telling the kids the certainty they're in with their phone in that moment versus writing it being anywhere else is also another guide. And love. I mean, the big one is love. You approach anything with love. It's easy. Everything melts with love. Because that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, understood, and then they want more of it, and they want more of it, to a certain point where you want to kind of ground that and say, hey, we're both human. Let's have a human interaction.
Exceptional. What is your legacy to the world?
Serving families of being even more present with each other, and those families to have even more families. So, the trying to meet other families that love being a family and having more families is very rare these days.
This has been a very helpful conversation for me, Fadi. Great to know more insights. For our audience, where can they find you now that we know social media is not the place they can find you at?
They'll find me at any Tony Robbins event.
And for those of you who don't go to our Robbins event, where do they find you?
No, I think I have Facebook and Instagram. It's all there.
Okay, that's a good place to find you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, everyone, for listening in to us. Fadi gave us wonderful insights about his values and needs and principles in life. If you want to hear about any specific topic, do let us know. And if you want to feature a certain person or a guest, by all means, let us know and we'll do our best to bring them on the show. Thank you once again for listening to us. Please subscribe for our next episodes and other information on my company. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate all the questions.